welcome here to the home of the Undisputed Champion and of course Ferrari's biggest fan and Ferrari's fastest driver definitely this weekend, because as we are going to go to the very unorthodox, very strange, you could say, race reaction to the race that never happened. What used to be, as you can see on this beautiful Scuderia Ferrari Design 3D calendar, round 4 of the 2026 FI Formula 1 Championship, the Bahrain Grand Prix, which of course was called off due to that escalating and very high tensions in the Middle East. Obviously Bahrain being right in the middle of it, you know, we definitely do not want to have a situation where somebody would be hurt. But yeah, the race was called off, but that's why we have the eSports and the F1 racing, so that we can always keep on going. And there's pretty much nothing stopping us from collecting some beautiful victories. Yay! So over here in this very special reaction, obviously only for Bahrain and the following round next weekend in Saudi Arabia, we will take a look at it, you know, just not obviously, you know, how well we have done from the Ferrari's perspective, because there was no race, so we will mostly just take a look, you know, at the latest news. Of course, you know, we will also update you on some of the key developments, you know, taking place, and we will talk a little bit, of course, you know, about our very own championship, and then take a look at how the drivers and constructors championship look like. Obviously they are still the same, and we will just, you know, basically approach it, you know, from the broader, you know, standpoint. But yeah, it will be obviously a little bit closer, shorter the reaction, because no race has taken place. So we were supposed to go to Manama, obviously in Bahrain, to the Chequered Circuit, the Bahrain International Circuit, for this first night race of the season, which you know, has never happened. So that special title will not go to Saudi Arabia, it will go to then Singapore, you know, in October, so in pretty much half of the year. And it's very interesting, I would say, you know, how the 2026 Formula 1 season keeps getting delayed, right? I mean, there are obviously lots of technical challenges, even though nowadays you can see that the progress by the teams is accelerated. You know, we obviously do know a lot about how to design the race car, but you can see, you know, especially with the battery and the battery deployment, which is now 50% of you know, all of your powertrain, you know, it's becoming difficult for some teams to really keep it, you know, to really be competitive. So we will see over April, you know, how much of the development there will be. But I was very interested to see if we would be able to, of course, you know, because we've set the fastest time in the preseason testing, so it's only really the Jeddah Corniche Circuit that will not see the all-new innovative 2026 cars, because here at the Bahrain International Circuit, you know, we had 2 weeks before obviously the conflict in the Middle East between the Iran and the United States started. We of course had over here 2 weeks, you know, of intense testing. We came out on top. So generally, given, you know, the pace of the Mercedes-Benz, the general consensus is that it is good that we are not racing in Bahrain, because obviously we can you know, counter-attack the possible another Benz victory, or Benz 1-2, or Benz and podium. But yeah, it is true that we were fastest over here, and you know, we are getting very close, you know, to the homologations of the power units, and especially, you know, the new rules which will come into effect from the 1st of June, which of course, you know, can take away, you know, the advantage that definitely Mercedes-Benz has on the straights. So overall, not running in Bahrain, you know, could be potentially decisive for the championship, as obviously we see it from our perspective of the Ferrari's biggest fan, as rather, you know, the less points lost than more points lost. Even though this is one of the tracks that we greatly enjoy, even though I did find it difficult to race. We obviously have done the races we are doing the concurrent season over here, but now we've collected not 3, but as you know, the 4 Formula 1 Grand Prix victories over here. And yeah, it was a happy hunting ground. You know, traditionally it's been for Scuderia Ferrari in 2022 when we had the first season of the ground effect era. We did collect the victory over here, so potentially the first win of the season at the first night race of the season, you know, hasn't happened. But then again, you know, safety is the most important, and I would say probably, you know, it would be a big question of how we will actually leave, you know, from the Middle East. Obviously also how we would get there. You do know that there are lots of news, you know, with this region obviously being very difficult to access, you know, through the traditional shipping routes. But of course the DHL, you know, we obviously used to have them, or the UPS as the official partner. You know, DHL is the official partner of Formula One, and you know they are transporting the car. So that is actually, you know, the main reason why. Because they would be flying in, you know, into the Middle East. So potentially the race could have gone ahead, but then again, you know, it would be right up there on the plate. You know, if something would have happened, that would have been terrible. And again, you don't want to be in a situation where, for example, your shipment gets delayed because again, we then have to go to Miami and so on. So in the end, you know, I was a little bit disappointed when that decision was made so early, you know, pretty much well before, you know, the Japanese Grand Prix and during the Chinese Grand Prix weekend. But, you know, now it seems like, you know, probably a really good decision, even though, you know, on the very eve over here of the time Bahrain on the weekend, the Bahrain Grand Prix was supposed to start, there is actually a ceasefire. So that means that we actually could have easily gone ahead. And, you know, with the Jeddah track obviously being on the Red Sea, you know, there would be, I guess, much less of a safety concern, you know, with the respect. But overall, you know, there's nothing we can do about it. So, you know, these are the news. So basically, you know, we will lose these two races. While we've lost already the Bahrain Grand Prix. You know, and yeah, with regards, you know, to some of the news, so I think, you know, the biggest news actually with regards to the development. So you had, for example, Hamilton testing at Fiorano, you know, in the wet conditions. So it definitely doesn't stop there. I mean, we definitely want to bring our Scuderia Ferrari all new package. So you know, that we are very competitive, especially at the ends of the straights. And again, you know, there will be only 2 races now before, you know, that June 1st, the different kind of testing will take place, and then, you know, we will be able to develop you know, that power unit more than, for example, Mercedes-Benz. So it is quite possible that yes, it could be different championship from Miami, but I would say it will probably be the different championship when we restart the season, you know, in Europe, probably from Monaco, where I expect Charles Leclerc to go his second Monaco Grand Prix victory, but yeah, from Barcelona, where obviously we love FC Barcelona. So wouldn't it be great if we as Ferrari started dominating Formula One from there? The Miami, Canada, we will see how that will go, and obviously in Bahrain and Saudi Arabia, we probably, you know, save some of the few of the points. The big development, you know, is that from Red Bull, who's actually forced, but it can have a big effect on what will happen to Scuderia Ferrari. I would say next season or potentially 2028, but I actually, to be perfectly honest, at this point of time, I would like this to happen in 2026, and that's because you have the Red Bull's race engineer for the Red Bull villain Max Verstappen leaving for McLaren officially, I think joining them in 2027. If I'm not mistaken, and probably you know, taking Andrea Stella's job as a team principal, so not going there as a race engineer. And I believe that opens up the door for Andrea Stella to actually replace Frederic Vasseur. This is his 4th year as a Scuderia Ferrari team principal, and obviously the start wasn't what we expected. Yes, I mean, the starts, they are what we expect. You know, we are absolutely you know, great off the line, but you could see in Japan it wasn't that great, and it really did cost us the race, right? The fact that we were not, you know, 1 and 2, you know, heading into turn 1. In Bahrain, you know, we've always, when we did the practice starts, we were always 1 and 2. So, you know, that could have been very, very interesting, because when we were running in a 1 and 2 formation, then we would always be able to keep Mercedes back, or McLaren, you know, if they would be there, obviously, you know, intact, right? They wouldn't be able to overtake, because you would have, obviously, you know, that double, you know, energy, you know, deployment, and of course the double straight mode, the double active arrow, you know, the former DRS. Now you can open the front wing as well. So I believe, you know, that yes, the starts are great, but with regards to, you know, how competitive the car is overall, I think that hasn't met the expectations. And, you know, sometimes it's good to make, you know, these moves early, right? Especially, you know, this can set up well, for example, heading into June, for example, and simply saying, look, if you know, Vasseur hasn't really taken, you know, the team to the greatest levels, having Michael Schumacher's former engineer, Andrea Stella, he could instill that Schumacher's kind of the structure into Scuderia Ferrari. Binotto obviously was unable to do it. He also worked with Michael Schumacher, so nothing is, you know, for granted. But here you can definitely see that from McLaren, you know, when Andrea Stella became the team principal, you know, the fortunes of the team have changed, and, you know, this is a big development on that front. So yeah, I think we told you, you know, everything about it. So let's take a look at how the Bahrain Grand Prix race finished, shall we? And You can see it on the Scuderia Red Retina iMac over here, and of course, the winner is let's jump on Scuderia Ferrari. Yeah. So over here, I hope you enjoy my race. So the real race didn't happen. So here you could see me getting super important victory over George Russell by over a second. Great, just a one pit stop strategy. This is exactly how it should be in a real life. And I'm extending the lead of the championship for the victory here in Bahrain, and obviously my 61st overall. So this is a very, very important victory, obviously with Piastri finishing third. Keeping Max Verstappen off the podium is very important. Fifth, Lando Norris, but it could have been really Ferrari 1-2 or definitely 1-3 with Hamilton obviously retiring on that 40. But I think the season, the 2025 cars were not the strongest by Scuderia Ferrari, but I'm able to tame them, and greatly enjoying it. Then in the top 10 you had 6, then Pierre Gasly, 7, Andrea Kimi Antonelli. This really illustrates, that's where he was usually finishing. This really illustrates just how much he has improved this season. 8, Carlos Sainz, 9, Yuki Tsunoda, 10, Fernando Alonso. So, definitely keep on supporting, the channel, and keep on enjoying, the races. And of course, in that Formula 1, the Bahrain Grand Prix video, you can find an exclusive race reaction, and I think it's great, right, that I also put the first lap or the first couple of laps, or for example the last lap, right, so that you can really see my emotion, how I really feel about it, that immediate feedback, and then of course when we do that traditional race reaction feedback. So this is how the race in Bahrain finished. No Formula 1 proper, but definitely Formula 1 with Januccia, the smiling sun champion. And the standings in the 2026-2026 Formula 1 season still stay the same. So Andrea Kimi Antonelli is leading with 72 points, obviously from George Russell, who's on 63 points. Charles Leclerc is third, 49 points. And the key will definitely be when we go to the Miami, to make sure that we can take the fight, to the Mercedes, especially over the Grand Prix weekend. Then we capitalize on any potential issues they might have reliability wise, because Lewis Hamilton for Scuderia Ferrari, fourth with 41 points, is only 31 points behind Antonelli. And if we don't fall too back far off, remember Verstappen was able to hold back 100 points in just 10 races, so anything is definitely possible. Fifth, reigning world champion Lando Norris for McLaren, 25 points. 6, Oscar Piastri, McLaren, 21 points. And look at Piastri. Basically only started one race but finished second, and bang, he's in the top 6. 7, Oliver Behrman has 17 points, and he will be, he's pretty much now almost fully recovered by this time, and he will be ready to race in May. 8, Pierre Gasly, Alpine, 15 points. 9, Max Verstappen, Red Bull, 12 points. 10, we then have over here Liam Lawson for Racing Bulls with 10 points. 11th is then Arvid Lindbergh, Racing Bulls, 4 points, the only rookie. 12th we then have Isaac Hadjar, Red Bull Racing, 4 points. Again, doing very well actually in that second seat, but again suffering in terms of being behind the Racing Bulls. This is a recurring theme pretty much since Perez's years, that the second Red Bull driver has lots of trouble beating the Racing Bulls. 13 is then Gabriel Bortoleto, Audi, 2 points. 14, Carlos Sainz, Williams, 2 points. 15, Esteban Ocon has 1 point. He should really have many more points. He should be aiming to challenge the Racing and the Red Bulls for the top 10. And 16, Franco Colapinto, Alpine, 1 point. Without the point still. 17, Nico Hülkenberg, Audi, 0 points. 18, Alexander Albon, Williams, 0 points. 19, Valtteri Bottas, Cadillac, 0 points. 20th, Sergio Perez, Cadillac, 0 points. 21st, Fernando Alonso, Aston Martin, 0 points. And 22nd, Lance Stroll, who competed for Aston Martin in the sports cars, 0 points. Still qualified, slowest out of all of the sports cars. But hey, that's not his discipline. But but Lance Stroll, obviously, that's kind of where he belongs. 22nd place. 2026-2026 Constructors Championship looks as follows. So Mercedes-Benz is really dominating it with 135 points, but we as Scuderia Ferrari are bringing in a great fight with 90 points, 45 points behind. So we could be leading after Miami, or if we were racing here in Bahrain. And it is very important that we don't let that gap to become way too much, right? again, Leclerc, for example, still being within one race victory of Antonelli, and we are still within, 1-2 perfect Grand Prix weekend of retaking the top slot from Mercedes-Benz. And the mechanical issues can happen. We can obviously improve. The pecking order can happen, and it is important to always stay up there, because look at the McLaren. They have won constructors for the last 2 races, but they are third on 46 points. Fourth is then Haas, 18 points, and then fifth you have actually Alpine with 16 points. Sixth Red Bull with 16 points, 17 Racing Bulls 14 points, 8 Audi 2 points only, 9 Williams 2 points, 10 Cadillac surprise 0 points, ahead of 11th Aston Martin with the Honda partnership 0 points. So yeah, obviously nothing will be changed since there was no race, but you can see the constructor standings over here, and then the driver standings over here, so we can see clearly what we are aiming for. And of course, we definitely, have to, I think the constructor's title or the driver's title is the only one, that could save Vassar's job. But yeah, for me, this weekend, the most important was that I was able to win here in Bahrain, to collect my second victory of the season, to be marching towards the championship, the 5-star championship for Scuderia Ferrari Formula 1 title, obviously, that only Michael Schumacher has achieved. So over here, I hope that you guys enjoyed this special, race reaction to the race that's never happened, the Bahrain Grand Prix. We will again have the introduction to the race that will never happen, the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix, and then the race reaction again, this time featuring not so many trophies, because one of the newest tracks on the calendar, the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix, we haven't won that many times, but here in Bahrain, this was the scene of my first ever victory for Scuderia Ferrari, and again, it was a beautiful, beautiful sunny day. We were not racing in 2010, obviously, at that time, in such conditions that we are racing now, meaning in the night conditions. And I actually greatly enjoyed it, winning by over 20 seconds, almost half of the minute. Really made me fall in love with racing, with the beautiful SF1000 T818 Formula 1 racing simulator. At the time, obviously, it was the non-display wheels and so on, as the analog has given the way to the digital. It's better than ever. And yeah, I hope that you guys are not missing Formula 1. We are having a great April. Hope you had a great Easter. We will be back very shortly with the race introduction to the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix, and hopefully we can win it to keep our winning record over here going as we marching towards the 5th Formula 1 Drivers' Championship for Scuderia Ferrari. So everybody, this was the Bahrain Grand Prix by Jan, the smiling sun champion, Ferrari's biggest fan, and of course, Ferrari's fastest driver. All I can say is, we love racing, we love Formula 1, we love Ferrari, Forza Ferrari!